Hello, welcome to C++ Lesson 9, Functions. This lesson will be streaming on YouTube live on Wednesday, July 24th, 2019 at 12 p.m. Central Time. Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Sailer-Haugland. Welcome back to our C++ lessons. Now, today is kind of a big lesson. Hopefully it shouldn't take that long for me to cover everything, but we're going to be talking about functions. What is a function? I would describe a function as a method of reusing a block of code multiple times in a program without actually having to write out repeated steps of code. It's sort of like a while or for loop, but it's also has unique features that for and while loops don't have. That will be very beneficial to us. So let's open up our terminal and let's go to our CS folder. Let's create a program called function.cpp. Now you see here we already have a function called main. That is read by our Linux environment and read using our compiler to know this is the things we need to run in our program. But there's another one. Let's write a function that returns an integer. This is its return type, what the function will return. You'll see how this works later on when we run it. Let's have a name for our function, add. We're simply adding two numbers together. There's one more before we write the body of our function. Those are parameters. We're going to have two parameters. Let's say an integer called a and an integer called b. These are passed into the function to be used in the function. And now let's have our body. Let's then create another variable called c. And let's define c to be the sum of a and b. Now a and b are copies of whatever parameters exist in the main function, whatever arguments are passed into the parameters. So, if we have an integer a and integer b, we can use those copies over here. The sum of a and b equals c. And now we're going to return the value of C by simply saying return C. I apologize. And now let's actually output something. Let's output the function of add with the values 3 and 5. Now what this will do is it'll pass 3 into the value A by copying it, and it'll pass the value 5 into the variable B by copying it. It would declare C, assign C to the sum of A and B, and return the value of C. It will return an integer, since it is a return type of integer. Now let's run our program. And right here, I forgot to do an end line. We have the value of 8. Right here. Let's go back into our program and see what else we can change about these, about this function to make it a little more accessible. So when we declare a function, we want it to return the value of either an integer. If it's an integer, we want it to return an integer. If it's a string, we want it to return a string, and so on and so forth. Let's try adding a bool. It will return a bool. And this is something very important. So listen up. So let's actually use one of the concepts we used previously, where we actually want a single digit number. Okay, so we would add the values of A and B to create C. And if C is less than 10, we're going to return true. And then we're going to return false. Let me explain something to you real quickly. If this if statement is true, that means that this entire function will end with this line. A function, in some cases, I'll tell you, in some cases it isn't true. But in some cases, a function will always end with a return statement. If this return statement is true, if the condition is true and the return statement is called, the function is over. This return false will not be called. We do not need an else statement for this if statement, because the return function will always be called. So, one more time, if a return statement is executed, that means the function will be over. So, let's actually run this program one more time. Be aware that the program will read true as 1 and false as 0. So let's run this program. We have a 1 because it is true. That is perfect. Now let's add 3 and 50. That's a 0. Perfect. It works. That is great. Now what I want to look at is I want to look at the parameters for a second. It's important to realize that a function can have any number of parameters. It can have 1 parameter, or 0 parameters, or 150 parameters. But I do not realize how would you need that many parameters. I want to get to the good stuff. I want to get to these functions that we haven't really talked about at all. They're called void functions, and I'm going to just delete this function altogether. So I'm going to delete everything, and I'm going to do a void function that is say hi. It will have no parameters. And I just want to say hello. But I don't want to do cout hello all the time. So I would just say hello world. Now, notice I don't have a return value at the end of my function. I just have a cout value. A void type function means that nothing will be returned using this function. The function will operate on its own, but it will not return any value to the main function. This is only useful in cases where you do not want to return a value. Let's run our function, say hi. We need these curly brackets because we need these parentheses because it is a function. And even though there are no parameters, it's still a function. So let's run it. Let's see what output we get. Hello world. So our function worked. That is great. I want to show you a few more ways you can use functions. Let's go back into our program and let's write another function. I'll keep this say hi function as a reference. Let's create a function that says swap, that swaps two variables. Well, that's weird. We can only return one thing in a function, correct? Yes, that is correct. However, we can change multiple values in order to retrieve changes to both values. Because of this, we will use something called pass by reference. Let me show you how it works. I believe I'm doing this right. Let's have two values, but we have this and sign right here. This and sign says, oh, I apologize. Oh, I apologize. It is incorrectly written here. Alright, what this function is saying is it's saying just take the actual values of A and B. Don't create copies. Take them out of the main and then work with them in the function body, and then at the end of the function, return those values. So let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna show you how to swap two variables. We're gonna create an integer called temp, okay? Temp is gonna hold the placement of A. B is that, and then I believe A is going to hold the placement of B, and then B is going to hold the placement of temp. Let's see how this works here. So, using this function, we can see here that we are passed by referencing both variables. That means that these are the actual variables created in the main function. Then we're gonna create an integer called temp. And we're gonna set the value of A to temp. Now temp has the value A. Let's create a comment. Temp has the value A. And then let's say, for this one, we're going to say B has the value, no, A has the value B. Okay, so now we cannot use the variable A in this instance. However, we do know that temp has the value of A. So in this case, B has the value temp, which has the value of A. So what we did here is we simply swapped two variables in this neat little function. Be aware that the type of parameters, the parameter type must be indicated in the function definition. In this term, we'll use a function definition. So now, let us create two variables. Int a equals 1, int b equals 2. And then let's see out a and b. Perfect. Then let's run our swap function with a and b. And let's see out a and b again. And let's see what we did here using this simple swap function. Let's run our program. I apologize. Oh, a simple error. There we go. So, let's see what we did here. A had the value of 1, but now has the value of 2. B had the value of 2, but now has the value of 1. This is using pass by reference. You'll be using them a bit as we get to more advanced topics like classes. Let's go back to our program, and I want to show you one more thing. All function definitions can be placed under the main function. Actually, let's do that. Boom. Boom. And let's delete all of these. Give me a quick second. Alright, and then let's run our function to see if it works. Because we want our main function at the very top. That will get us a more clean, I believe it will give us a more clean view of our program if we have the main function or what we're trying to do up top. Perfect, it works. However, okay, this is where I'm gonna go rogue for a second because I didn't know that this actually happened. I thought it would release an error, but I'm gonna go along and let's just say that the function we just did not work. And for that, I'm going to run say hi, just to make sure that I'm not going crazy. So, okay, so say hi doesn't seem to be working. So, in order to make it work, we need to define or declare the function up top. Declaring a function means it will use the same return type, name, and parameter with a semicolon at the end. So void say hi with no parameters. Now let's see if this function works. Hello world. Perfect. It seemed to be working. But what you want to do for all functions, if you have all your functions below your main function, you want to have a declaration or prototype at the top in between using namespace std and your main function. Let us run this program one more time. And boom, we have our functions running and going. I'm going to show you one more thing that is going to be useful in this week's challenge. Yes, there's a challenge. It's hard. Let's just create a full function definition up here for time. Let's say bool is an even number. And let's pass in an integer of a. And let's simplify this. Let's just have one statement that says return. Now we can have, remember all condition statements either return a true or a false. So let's have a mod 2 is equal to 0. Let's return that statement. This will declare whether it's true or whether it's false. And it'll return it into the main. So let's actually use A and B as an example. If is an even number, A cout A is an even number. And line. Else, now we do need an else statement for this. Else, cout A is an odd number. And then let's check the same condition for B. Now what will happen is the condition in this, the condition in this conditional statement is a function. However, it will return a Boolean. When it returns a Boolean, that Boolean will go into the conditional statement, and the if statement will run as predicted. So, let us run this function. A is an odd number and B is an even number. That makes sense. Perfect. So there was a lot going on in this episode, and this episode was probably one of my longest episodes. But let's see what we learned today. We learned about the return types of a function. They can be any return type: string, double, bool, integer, or it can be a void function in which nothing is returned and all the work is done in the function itself. And then we learned about names, the fact that you can have as many or as little parameters as you may want for your function. And we learned that a body, we didn't talk that much about the body of a function. However, it works pretty similar to what we have learned in the main function, in that everything runs like it does in the main. We also learned about declarations up here. We learned how to declare them so that we can have our functions be down below. And we also learned about calling a function, specifically when it relates to booleans. This upcoming challenge is going to be pretty hard. However, there will be no user input, but there will be an output for clarity. I am going to show you a brief summary of the project tomorrow on Thursday. And then on Friday, I am going to show you the basics of exceptions. That's going to be a little extra lesson to help you basically error-free your or catch errors in your programs. Don't worry, I am not going to show you types of exceptions or anything to do with logical exceptions. It's going to be the most basic form of exceptions you will ever learn. If you need any clarification on anything we have covered so far, or you are confused on what you have learned today or in previous lessons, please feel free to contact me either through the comments or on one of my social media accounts. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you see, please give this video a like and be sure to subscribe for more coding tutorials. Also, go check out my previous coding tutorial videos, as this coding tutorial is somewhat in the more advanced part of coding for a CS1 student. Alright, thank you so much and have a great day. Yay! I'm done. Oh my